Hi guys, it's a very good morning from. My name is Alan and I'm from India, and I'm back with another full flight tutorial on Explain 11. So we are here at Victor Echo Charlie Charlie, which is Calcutta, basically one of the largest cities in the northern eastern part of India. As you can see, it's started up the battery, and I'm gonna switch over to the ground power, which is already available, and we will get right to it by aligning the iris. Takes about 1 minute. I have purposely kept the settings that way. I'm gonna open the fuel tab, which shows my flight plan, which I've already uploaded here. So if you can see here, my flight plan says about 6578. So basically flying from uh, Calcutta to Dhaka, which is the capital of Bangladesh. It's a very short flight, about in total 1 hour of time is required to do everything, including creating the flight plan, airtime, everything inclusive of that takes about 1 hour. So, and hence it's one of the perfect routes to practice full flights, as opposed to uh, most of the routes which minimum take at least 2 hours, right? So as you can see, we have aligned the iris. We're gonna just increase the light a little bit. Sounds better. Perfect. Now let's get to the flight plan. I'll keep my flight plan open here in the IV tab. As we already put in the fuel, that's our route. So we're departing from 01R. This is our city, basically. This is one of the airways. This is the direct waypoint. So there is no actually there's no star available for the Dhaka airport, and it tells us to land in runway number 30. The only change that we're basically going to do is, instead of trying to land in runway 32, we will try to run directly select runway 14, and there's a logic to that. I'll sharing that in a while. So let's start putting in the data. So we are at Victor Echo Charlie Charlie at gate T7L. Let's take the route Victor Echo Charlie Charlie to Victor Golf Hotel Sierra. Our call sign today is going to be, guys, SP737, and as you could have seen in the flight plan, our departing runway is going to be 01 Romeo. If the fueling has stopped, so we can directly select the cross weight. Perfect. Our cruising altitude is flight level 190. We're going to take the wind information. So as you can see, the wind is 280051. And the temperature outside is 23. 1.1 is the reserves. 6 is the cost to us. All of this data is basically from the flight plan. Nothing is self-created here. I'm gonna take 24k to D rate, climb 1, 5-degree flaps, V1, V2, V3. V3 is 146, so you can just remember that. We will putting that in the MCP. Let's go to the departure. So as you know, 1 hour, the Mark 2E was our first transition. Sorry, our SID. So as you can see, as soon as you select the SID, you can see your last waypoint appears here. And now what you could do is, once you've done that, you could click on route so that you can put in the rest of the waypoints. So our first waypoint was A4, our airway was A462. Just go to that sheet first. Yeah, so A462 and Ikogu. So I'm gonna put in that. Post that, we are going directly to Akivo. It's a waypoint, so directly we'll put in there, and that's the waypoints. And now we directly go and select the runway. So as I said, we're going to be doing runway 14 rather than runway 32, and there's a reason to it, which you will realize when I actually we start approaching. Okay, so that's the runway, and as you can see the transition, we don't have to write we don't have to select a keyword because uh, in our flight plan it's already there. So if I select that again, there will be duplication for that, right? So I'm just gonna remove any discontinuity, so that discontinuity is gone. And now let's activate the flight plan, right? A small bit of changes what will be required, so let's just come back and let's go to the flight plan and let's go directly to the approach post Akivo. So from Akivo you can see that there obviously is going to be a turn, right? So so there's a sharp turn, right? So if you see here at Akivo, from Akivo to C114 it's about 28 miles, and we still will be at 207. So we are supposed to take the turn and plus descent. So we just had about what 12 miles to do that. So if I want, what I could do instead is I could create an additional waypoint. Not entirely necessary, but if you want a smoother approach, and not a steeper one, right? So because you can clearly see from Akivo you would have already been descending to about 2000 feet, and that could pose challenges at the end. So hence what I try to prefer is slightly longer approaches. Now not entirely necessary, but for the benefit of the video I'm trying to do this. So you select the last waypoint from a after a which is C114, and as you can see the degrees is upon 022 degrees, right? And if you see the runway heading is about 144, right? Now you want exactly opposite to 144 um, as the degree. So what you do is open up the calculators, right? Just add 144 plus 180. So basically what you're saying is I want the opposite of 144, right? So that gives you 324, right? Now since this is lower than 365, we don't this would be the final number. If it was more than 360, you would reduce it with 360, and that would be your degrees which you could put in. So at this point it is going to be 144 plus 180, right? So which is 324. So I'm gonna select right 324 here. So that's my degree. That's how you create a waypoint. So if you see C114 initially is the waypoint name, and after that is my degrees. And now I would want to know how much distance do I want. So from C114 maybe I create another 5 miles radius, right? So I write 005, and that's how it gives it to me, and you execute it. So now if you see, you have slightly longer transition. So if you can see from, so from Akivo you'll take about 31 miles to come to C1101, and once you reach C1001, from there you have 5 plus 8, that's 13, 13 plus almost 6, so that's about 19 miles of approach, which is a fairly decent one. Perfect. Now since we have everything, let's start putting setting the MCP. In fact, starting our flight leg, so that our flight crews can get people on board and we can get started. Wonderful. So let's set my auto brakes to RTO. I'll open my flight directories, put it to 007. That's the runway heading. That's our transition altitude. That's our cruising altitude. Directly put in 19,000. Right, as you remember, 147 was our V3, right? I can set this as well to 007. Let me put my cruising altitude here. Start my fuel pumps. Start my hydraulics. Arm the doors. Seat belts to automatic. Yaw damper to on. And we'll also start the APU. Meanwhile, the APU gets started. We'll also complete the rest of the things before we actually call the pushback. So we'll put in the altimeter 2985. The landing minimums, which I'll show you later, is about 320. So I'm just, since I remember it, I'm just going to put it directly in the interest of time. Since we don't know what kind of landing we're going to do and what visibility is going to be there, at this point I've put in the details on both the PFDs. Now let's look at the charts. So I'm gonna get rid of this, and I would want to know what is the as you said, we're going to be taking 14, so ILS 14 would be 109.5. so just one. Okay, so APU is on now, so I'm going to switch power to APU. Start the APU bleed. Okay. So everything okay, I just forgot. Flaps are set to 5 degrees, MCP is set, flight plan is set, trim is set, radios are set, auto brakes is set. So I think we can finally call her pushback. So I'm gonna start the anti-collision lights so that my crew and everybody is aware that the engine is gonna start, and then they can.
Flight attendants prepare for departure, cross check and all call, thank you.
Yep. So
Alright, we've got everyone strapped in. Give us a ring if you need anything.
it's strange. My pushback plugin is I can't see that. Now why has that happened? Let me see if I can access it from strange, huh? Anyway, so we don't have for some reason I can't find my better pushback plugin. Let me just see. Okay. See if it comes back. Yeah. Yeah. So we're gonna be taking the pushback from here, and we will be exiting from F1.
Ground to cockpit. Plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready.
So we are ready, so we can just quickly get started.
Ground to cockpit. Tow is driving up.
So I'll just adjust the lights a little bit, or we won't actually need much lights because as we are in the east of India, it tends to get brighter very fast. But still, for the time being, we're gonna keep a little bit of illumination available, right?
Okay, all doors and hatches are closed. Ready to connect.
Hope I selected the right minimum, so it's about 350. I'm sorry. Yep, so the minimum is
Tow
set.
connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake.
Parking brake released.
Starting pushback. And you may start engines.
So I've started the first engine, and our pushback starts. So first engine has reached 25.9, so I'm going to start the first lever. Starting the second engine. Okay, starting the second lever.
Operation complete. Set parking brake. Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
Alright, so we're gonna on our taxi lights, disconnect, switch the power to generators. APU is off, APU blue will be off. Start the air conditioning and start with the anti-ice. So everything is set, and we're waiting for the hand signal.
Tow is disconnected and bypass pin has been removed. Hand signal on the right. Well, see you next time and have a safe flight.
So I'm just gonna get the map out. So if you can see here, we will take this turn from here and get into 01R. So that's a hand signal, we're good to go. Increase the thrust. We're running a slight delay, about 10 minutes or so. So we'll just take a slight left from here. Okay, so we'll take a right from out here. and we will enter 01 hour.
Approaching 01 left.
So this is the other parallel runway, and we cross over to the other side, which will take us to our intended runway. I'm gonna start the transponders. Let's get our takeoff lights on. Taxi off, engine continuous. Should get a confirmation now.
Okay, the cabin is secured. Have a good flight.
Approaching 01 right.
Wonderful. I'll start increasing the power a little bit.
On runway 01 right.
As I get aligned, I'm gonna press toggle and slight pressure on the joystick.
knots. V1, rotate.
Rotate. Get up.
Positive rate. $400.
Flaps 2.
$1,000.
Flaps 1. Altimeter set to standard. Flaps retracted. Gear to normal. And we are airborne. So we're almost crossing by about 5,000 feet. To our first waypoint, which is Basat, and Basat has an altitude restriction about 7,000 feet. Post that we will get into 13,000 and finally flight level 190. And as you can see, not much time we actually cruise, so as soon as we hit the cruising altitude we'll start descending. In fact, if you actually see, we start descending at 101, so that's 0050 at this moment, so that's about 11 minutes from here. So hence a very short flight. And if you actually look at the expected time of arrivals, it's over 190. So it's perfect flight to practice. So what I've done is over the course of simming for some years, I've identified such short flights which are not so short that you can't actually experience the entire cruising. It's not so long that you have to you don't find time to do it. So uh, and especially when you're starting off simming, whatever, as a flight enthusiast, or maybe with the objective of actually getting into aviation. In initial parts of learning how to fly, most of the learning actually happens either in the takeoff site, takeoff part of the you know takeoff part of the simulation of the flight, or maybe the landing part, and landing being the most difficult part. And when you do longer flights, what I've realized is that your skill part for the landing is not really ready. So no matter how much you practice landing separately, when you actually do a complete flight, uh, your brain still has to get developed to get adjusted with the entire uh, you know planning, takeoff, cruising, and then also making sure that you land properly. Hence, what I suggest is do shorter flights initially, right, till the time you gain confidence and your skills are set, and after that the duration will really matter. So that would be choice. So we're crossing about 9,700 feet, and I'm gonna set my seatbelt sign to auto. Hopefully the weather we get at Dhaka would be somewhat similar. It's not very far away. Dhaka uh, used to be a part of Pakistan before it got liberated. And the Calcutta, the origin airport where we're coming from, used to be the hub of East India Company. It used to be one of the biggest cities in India before independence. Now, of course, it still remains as one of the metros in India, but of course, there are more cities now. Uh, but I like this route very much. In fact, there are two places where you can fly from Calcutta as the origin airport. One is to Victor Golf Hotel Sierra, and one is VEBS, which is Victor Echo Bravo Charlie, which is Bhubaneswar Airport. Another nice, slightly longer than obviously this flight. So that takes about 40 minutes of cruise instead. So that's the double the time, but still you will be able to complete it within 1 hour 15 minutes. Uh, so at least in the east part of the flights, I found this to be a really interesting. Now, of course, there are smaller airports that you could take as origin, but obviously you would want one airport to at least be of some standard. And I've not put in much plugin, scenery. I don't do much sceneries. So we are climbing to crossing flight level 130, 131. You can just look at our maps on where we are at this point in time. So you can see here, so this is Victor Echo Charlie Charlie Calcutta Airport, right? From here we have we are approaching ABJR, right? So that's the airway 462 which we had put in, and that's our destination airport. So there are about two airports just bang on nearby. So this is the Dhaka airport. We can just have a quick look at the visibility and the weather. So it says skies are clear, visibility is 2, which is very strange. So most of the times I don't really trust the data given here in terms of numbers, except the altimeter. So I just look at the altimeter, which is 2988, which is very similar to what we had in Calcutta. So it's not going to be much of a challenge. How does the runway look? So let's just have a quick look at how the airport looks like from a technical angle. So it's a good idea to get a good source of charts, right? Since this is a very smaller airport compared to other airports, not much information will be available, but
1,000 to go.
what is available is that the runway is 3.2 kilometers, right? 3200 multiplied by 45, so that's a decent length. So we're approaching cruising altitude. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna inform the passengers that we are leveling off. Now, since we have reached the cruising altitude and we will start descending, I'm gonna put in the landing altitude, which is 2000. If you do not do this, at the end what's gonna happen is your automation, your autopilot will not descend, your VNAV won't work, and anyways you will get that notification. So we set our landing altitude as 2000, from where we are expecting that we will capture the ILS and we will approach, we'll arm our approach. Wonderful. So 3200 into 45 is what our runway looks like now. So the reason why I did not land select 32, I guess there's a bit of scenery issue on the 32 side, so I don't know why, and that's standard scenery. There are no plugins which I used in the original airport. Not much trees is what you find in the 32 side, 32 side, but very strange to actually find so many trees just you know, probably around 1000 meters away from the threshold of runway 32, which is what I found strange. So when you're actually approaching and trying to descend, you really do not get the nice idea of, you know, whether how much to descend, right? So hence I prefer to land from runway 14, and it actually makes more sense because you have the proper you know, exits. Again, in this chart it's not written what the exit points are, but I'm assuming that it's going to be either Charlie or Hotel, right? As opposed to when you actually do it from runway 32, you're expected to vacate from C, which is a hard task because if you actually look at this size, so that's about what, almost one third, not exactly one third, almost 40% of the runway. So if you say that the entire runway is about 3200, so you expect it to stop at about 1200 meters, which is going to be max auto brakes and plus manual braking, right? So that's going to be a very rough landing, rough stop, and there is no exit after Charlie. So hence I do not like to land from 32. I prefer landing from runway 14. So from runway 14 we're going to exit through Hotel, so which is a nice smooth braking, so we can use auto brakes 2 at max, take a turn, and we can enter the terminal through Charlie. Another important thing to look out in any of the airports is I don't know if it's mentioned here, but most of the airports it is the runway profile, right? If there are any you can say elevation or slope in the runway, so which helps you prepare on making sure that you land properly. So for example, there are a lot of airports like VOML, which is basically Mangalore airport in India, which is in the southern east part of India. It's got a tabletop runway and plus with a slope and plus short runway, so it's a fantastic learning experience there. And while you land, right, so for example, if you consider this as the runway and it's flat, so you have a certain judgment on when exactly to flare, whereas when you're sloping, you have to delay your flare because otherwise you would flare too fast and then you would just drop down, and that would be very not appreciated by your passengers. Hence it's a good idea to know at least what kind of a runway profile do you have. So just as an example, since we are still cruising and we have some time to talk, we can look at the Calcutta airport, which is pretty much more. So there you go, we have, so I'm just gonna take a break. So we have touched our top of descent, and now I'm gonna just inform the crew, and we can start do slight preparations for the descent. One is we'll set the altimeter to 29.88, which we had seen it before. Wonderful. Landing altitudes we already set. We have already set the ILS frequencies. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna set the course to 144 so that the ILS is recognized, and we're gonna get the heading similar. Okay, I'm gonna select the VREF, so 63.5, so 146 plus 5, so I'm expecting about 151. And we can go to performance landing in your app tab, select runway 14, flap 30, night conditions are dry, there's no wind, landing altitude will be 60, landing weight is going to be 60,500. Right, so it should give us an estimation of what autowork settings we can take. So as you know that 3025 was basically our total runway length, and we knew that almost 3/4 of the runway is where we had to stop, right? So even if we take, let's say, auto brake 2, right, we will make it very easily. So just for safety sake, we're going to keep it auto brake 3, and we're going to put less pressure on our manual braking. So 151 is the landing final speed, which we're going to target as we land. We are almost near the final waypoint, which is Akivo, after which we will get preparing for landing. Right, so at Akivo we will set our seat belts to on, and we are going to inform the crew up that to prepare for landing. Yeah, so I was talking about the runways, right? So since it's a bigger airport, strange. Sometimes this works, sometimes this is wanted to. That's strange. How did this come out? Is that like is that tab like levitating on itself? Okay, so we're taking that turn now, so we'll our seatbelts on, and we're gonna ask our so that's our turn. So if you see here, taking that turn, and we're gonna get aligned. Meanwhile, let me just try this. What the hell happened here? Yeah, so chuck that. So as you can see here at 01R end, it's written 20, and if you look at the end, it's written 18. So that gives you an approximation of whether there is actually any elevation or slope. So that's a good data point to be aware of. So we're descending below flight level 10 and approximately around 26 miles away from our approach waypoints. I'm descending at the rate of 1450 feet per minute. We're bang on profile, so nothing to worry about that. Our go around altitude is about 2000. So you might have a question in your mind why I actually am flying a domestic airliner of Australia in this part of this world. Reason is because I really don't care about liveries, and I used to, but then it's just waste of time, so I just took whatever is the best available and it looked best. So I'm gonna just click on the approach on the secondary display, so which gives me whether I'm, you know, on low or high, much before my PFD. So we're almost to our final turn, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just reduce the speed to about 200 and flat one setting. So that's our final turn. So that's a steep descent where we have no choice. Now you can see that why that additional waypoint really helps, right? Because you do that steep descent, your speed increases, so you still got some time to reduce the speed with that additional waypoint that we created, and hence
1,000 to go.
right.
2,500.
So now we can reduce it to 180 and go to lap 2. So that's our runway. So we should be intercepting the glide slope in a moment. I can't really go below that speed unless I go gear down, so I'm just waiting for the right moment. About 9 miles is what we are away from, and we can go to flap 15 by about 7 miles. So if we do intercept the glide slope, then usually intercepting the glide slope is the moment where you actually go to flap 15. Hence I can't really make it to 159 at that point, so I'm just gonna wait for. Yeah, so we have intercepted the glide slope, so I'm gonna arm the approach, go to flap 15, get down, reduce the speed further and go to flap 25. Landing lights on, taxi lights on, engine set to continuous. Flap 30, speed 155. about 5 miles away. Now select the landing speed 151. Now wait till the engine stabilizes. So you can say it's not clear, it's not very clear, it's not crystal clear. That's manageable. Alright, so we're the final legs, and I'm gonna concentrate on the landing. So I'm gonna stop tapping and making sure that we land safely, and I'm gonna disconnect autos at about 800 feet.
Thousand feet, stabilized, Mr. Perch, altitude set.
Approaching 1-4.
Approaching minimums. 400. Minimums.
Continue.
300. 200. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20.
Check.
10.
Close. Hold.
Long landing, 8,000 feet remaining.
$80 knots.
So flaps out. Switch off the landing lights. Taxi lights can be on. We're gonna start the APU from now itself so that we have some source of power. Set the transponder off. Alright, so welcome to Dhaka, guys, and a fairly okay landing, although we did float a little bit, hence the RAS was calling out for a long landing. Not necessarily that we did not miss out the touchdown zone. You're fairly in the touchdown zone. And this is what I'm more interested in, the approach rating, right? So the approach rating is fine because we didn't really were way off our glide slope. So we take this exit right here. Slow down a little bit. So the terminal to the right is actually an international terminal, so we're gonna take the third gate available. Switch off our taxi lights. So that's our point. Set the parking brakes, switch the power to APU, and reduce the throttles. Close the fuel pumps, close the hydraulics. Switch on the anti-ice, switch off the anti-ice. Wonderful. So welcome to Dhaka, guys. I hope you enjoyed the flight, and you can have a quick look on how it looked from the outside. How I did do a mistake, which I could have done much better, is at one point around 300 feet is where my rate of descent did reduce. I wanted it to still continue. So that's where that's where I floated a little bit, right? I holded the altitude a little more than what was required. Right, another view. So see, this is nicely coming, and since my rate of descent at the final stage was very high, so I tried to pull up my nose a little bit more, because of which we did float a little bit, and hence the. So I would definitely say that we could have done better out here. So if you can see here, right at that moment, right? So if you see, I'm pulling off my nose. See. Hold, see, so we could have nicely come down and touch down at the touchdown point, but since I was holding the nose up, we did float and we were slightly off the runway send line, which we did make it up. But could have been better, that's what I can say. Could have been much better. Well guys, thanks for watching, and I hope I'll see you with another video on another full flight simulation. Thank you guys for watching.